Peace, peace, family. So we back with another one. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how witchcraft dominates today's society. They never got rid of all the witches from back in the old days that we see movies and read books about. Just like they never fully got rid of all of the natives, the aborigines to this land. Witchcraft dominates in today's society so much that you are using it at such a young age without any acknowledgement because you don't have anyone informing you what you're partaking in. What kind of brought me to the subject today was I was just doing some observing of my mini, and she liked to make her little videos and stuff. We got a whole process about how we do videos, what you're allowed to post, what you're not allowed to post. And for a good portion of them, she just liked to keep in her draft. She just liked to do it for practice. And we were talking about how in her old pictures, she used to do the kissy lips until it was explained to her. And then she also asked me about why do girls stick their tongues out in pictures. We can all say a lot of this stuff is fun and games, you know, doing your tongue out, which is emulating the Baphomet. You know, you can do the kissy lips, which you are projecting a certain sexual vibration out to the people or the viewers that are intaking your picture or video. And it was so tricky trying to explain it to her because she's still young, so some of the terminology that I use, I have to break that down even more for her to understand, but she does a great job at understanding once it is fully presented. And it just had me processing about everything else that we do in today's society that involves witchcraft. I know for a lot of people who are not on this side of the spectrum, they don't believe in witches and spells and witchcraft and all these things. And then you also have some religions that really don't believe in it at all. I guess I could say the same thing. Some understand and know that it's an abomination. You know, it's the opposite of God, the creator, you know, source. And to understand witchcraft, you have to understand, like, there's a lot of focused concentration of your energy vibration put into a certain point to where you are literally directing it to its location without physically doing anything. As far as, like, you have to do some physical action. It's multiple ways. You can sit down, what we call meditation on this side. You can sit down and you can start formulating witchcraft spells in your inner space. But then you also have the ones where, you know, the weird people get seance circles, you know, certain types of candles and all of these other different accessories that they utilize when they're doing their witchcraft. But a lot of other things that's considered witchcraft, we kind of don't really look into as witchcraft. And music is a big one. When I was talking to my mini, I was telling her how in the culture that we live in today, anywhere in these Western cultures, music dominates the vibration to a degree. You get on the elevator, there's music. You get in your car, there's music. You listen to commercials, there's music. You watching any videos, there's music. TV shows, music. You know, it doesn't matter where you go to, there's going to be some kind of music with words being played. Not too many places you go into anymore that just have instruments being played. It's kind of hard to, not saying it's not possible, I'm just saying it's a little difficult trying to pinpoint a sound as far as, oh, this is a deep, dark sound, this sounds like it could be demonic. To a degree, yes, but for the most part, when you are hearing certain sounds and vibrations that sound like what they use for, see, we use certain sounds and vibrations from scary movies and automatically peg that with scary, darkness, horror. When in all actuality, if we was programmed and it was given to us and it wasn't given to us in the ingredients in the form that it was given to us, we wouldn't perceive sounds and vibrations that are, that doesn't feel as of uplifting. We wouldn't perceive that as this is dark and gloomy in a horror sound. We all can understand that just by looking out at nature. When you out in nature at nighttime and it gets silent, that's more creepier than hearing noises. Silence can be way more creepier, but the music dominates. And I haven't ran into anybody in this universe yet that doesn't love music. Everybody I run into, yeah, I just love music. Oh, I grew up with music. Either they can sing, they really good at dancing, they really good at playing instruments, or they just really love listening, feeding themselves with the music. If you go to different parts of the world that's not really connected to the Western culture, which you can use nature and life if you haven't traveled out to get this concept, you would understand the most music that they will receive is when they're having gatherings together. Outside of the birds making their own music and nature and the June bugs and all these other things, it's usually at an ideal time when there is music being played. And usually is depending on the culture, and I guess depending on the culture and the event, factors in whether it's going to be just drums and instruments being played and people gathering and dancing, doing their thing, blah, 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 or whether it's one of those events where they do have someone who can sing or a poet or speak over top of the music. I was trying to show my mini some different videos, like something else that she could watch in her free time when I'm preoccupied doing something. And I was kind of getting burnt out of her showing me all of, like, the dance videos and all of these things, right? It's all, I love to have fun. I'm a jokester. I've been dancing since I was little. I play around with her doing it now, but that is not my go-to thing anymore. I'm not little no more. But I realized it was extremely difficult finding some spiritual knowledge to put into her algorithms. So I literally had to go on to TikTok, which I don't use at all. So it's always foreign to me every time I got to open it up. I do got a TikTok page I haven't posted in years. Once they start shadow banning me and doing all that stuff, I just stopped posting just to keep the platform and my space up there. But I literally had to type in spiritual music just to find something that's more positive, productive on the spell casting side. Because I always tell her all the time, in the same way we discuss over here on this side, we feeding ourselves three ways: through our mouth, through our eyes, and through our ears. And I'm trying to help her create and guide her through the balance. Because what happens is, for me in this process, I want her to have the option to blend in, but still be aware of the creator's path and have access to some of this source and information at the age she's at right now. And then as you get bigger and you start feeding yourself a little bit more healthier vibrations, you get access to more and more information. So that's where I was at with that space. And it had me just so thrown off, because I'm like, it's just so many spells being casted. It's a lot of witchcraft out here. And this is just as far as pertaining to the music. This is not even as far as pertaining to how we communicate and engage with each other on a regular basis. When you find yourself communicating or doing things that feels off balance on the inside, but you're doing it for a certain outcome. And when I mean off balance, I'm meaning like it doesn't feel like it's connected to source. You know what I mean? And I've always been able to tell when I'm doing something that's off balance, because there's always this like tap on my shoulder or this subtle reminder that, okay, now I'm making my own decision and I'm off the path of source and creator. So if I don't get as much protection over here on this side, I have to understand I stepped off the path, and now I have to fend for myself for however long or may the time be. It's so much witchcraft being used in today's society that outside of it being in the foods, you have to look at even being on these roads. So I know it's the gig economy right now, like everybody's hustling, bustling, and do everything they can right now. But as I was processing yesterday, because my vibes was a little off yesterday, and I wasn't in a bad mood or anything, it was just my vibes was just off. Like on the inside, I was feeling down, lower than my usual vibration, but I wasn't projecting any negative vibes outward into the universe. And usually when I get to that space, because I don't have a lot of healthy pairs around me right now, I kind of I close off. And that's a small portion of why I haven't been as active up here and posting as much. You know, sometimes it gets a little discouraging when you've been at a certain thing for years, and then you're seeing new people come in with all this garbage and brain rot, and they're flying right through these algorithms as if they've been here forever. You know, I try to do this and not have the same subjects and discussions, the same talking points. I like being able to be creative. But the way this witchcraft is set up, and like I was saying previously, like being out on the road, I realized if you having any of these driving gigs, even though you're by yourself in the vehicle and you're moving around doing these things, you're still taking in the vibrations of a lot of these other witches around you. If you ever sat in the house for a full day, you can dictate the flow of your vibration a lot more. Even if you have things attacking you on the inside, you still have more control over, you know, whether you're gonna fight a little bit harder, give a little bit of slack, how you're gonna create that push, you know. But when you're out on these roads, it's so many people, even if they aren't engaging with you, you still don't know what these other beings been doing, and all of our vibrations are clashing with each other. And this was something that was really hitting me yesterday, because I was out working for a minute yesterday, and I just kept thinking, damn, I'm usually running 12-hour days, like just going. My body's starting to get exhausted on me, but the way this war's set up, ain't no break, so I'm not gonna sit here and complain about it. I'm just gonna keep doing what I gotta do. But I realized, like, if you constantly have to engage in this Western culture, in society, whether it's due to work or pleasure, you have to be mindful of the spells that have been casted on this land. Yes, there's a lot of us, me's, Aborigines that was already here, which is another witchcraft live spell. We can see gang members, people in the hood, low income areas, all crashing out over the spaces where they lay their heads. So we should already understand that they would not be able to bully us out of certain spaces without a lot of other ones of us willing to crash out over the soil that we stand on. If beings are crashing out now, quote unquote, in the hoods, the projects, these lower income areas, you should already know that our ancestors, the one that was before us, was crashing out too. This is why they had to work different witchcraft spells in order to do manipulation, in order to flatter us, in order to, pretend to rub one back while they stabbing us with the other hand to get us in the position that we in today. It would have never happened without the witchcraft that they was using. And that should be a telltale sign of the curses that a lot of entities have been trying to place on this land that we occupy now. You can hear little children talking, and you can hear the witchcraft spells in their communication, in their language. A lot of people like to say feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't supposed to be facts. So if I'm just feeling around on the table, feelings is more like guiding. It's not supposed to be fact or fiction. Oh, I feel this way. Yeah, something was guiding you that way, whether it was the creator pulling you that way or whether it was these demons pulling you the other direction. But feelings aren't supposed to be facts. So I always thought that statement was like a little weird when people will compare facts to feelings. A lot of what goes on in today's society, they want us to exclude our feelings. They say that you're too sensitive if you do this, you're too sensitive if you do that. The thing with sensitivity is it helps you feel better, it gives you more awareness. So the more, unless it's like you're super sensitive to like the sun, or like you super sensitive to something that's harmful to you, that would be like a kryptonite. But for the most part, your sensitivity is your sensory system. Like, you wouldn't be able to be aware of half the things that you are aware of. You wouldn't be able to take some of the positions that you take if you didn't have your feelings help guide you. Our feelings is what keeps us connected and grounded. And the minute you lose your feelings, you see what starts to happen and transpire in the process. A lot of people like to say hell is cold. Hell is hot. But in my world, I'm one of them people that I like to say hell is cold. You ever think about it, it's a lot of cold-hearted people out here. If they say you warm-hearted, that's usually more godly feeling. It's not hot-hearted. You know what I mean? We have to understand the spells that have been casted to put us in these spaces, in these positions that we are in today. And for a lot of us over on this side, it's been so many casted that we tend to look past some of the ones that we actually partook in until we transitioned into another chapter in our journey. It's always a little confusing trying to express this outwardly. But we do so much and get nowhere in this culture. It's weird that we're all sitting here strong enough to move. Our legs work, we're able to walk. Yet we are in a shocked state. Shocked. Something traumatic or traumatizing is happening to you and you just kind of freeze. This is where these spells have literally put us in. The movie Get Out, a bunch of us had got stuck in the sunken place. And it doesn't feel good when you're in a sunken place, and for us that's on this side of the spectrum, we become aware and we notice when we're in these spaces. We just haven't been shown, guided, or taught how to pull ourselves out of there the best way. I know some people are gonna be like, yeah, well, you talk to the creator, the creator. We already understand that over here, okay? So we're not gonna keep going to the most basic answer. That's at chapter 1, okay? If you're still stuck on that same answer, you gotta go somewhere else. That's chapter 1. We on chapter 10. Chapter 10, you have to fucking take action. It's that simple. If you don't get food to feed yourself, food is not gonna magically fall on your lap. You will starve. If you don't drink water, water is not gonna just magically fall out the air. And it can rain, all right. Rain is a possibility. Water can fall out of the sky. All right, I just had to catch myself there. But for the most part, that's not usually the case, okay? It's always like a double mantra anytime something of that stature is being said. But just be mindful of all the witchcraft spells being utilized, from everything they putting into our foods, our water, the sky, the land, you know, how they can create spells and witchcraft around you to put you in a lesser space, which means that now you have to self-focus in order to pull yourself out. But if you have people that's dependent on you and you aren't aware of your state that you're in, you kind of are hurting the people that's around you because you aren't at the best space that you could be in on the inside. Not talking about on the outside, because a lot of people are fucked up in the Western culture right now due to what these witches is doing at the top, you know? And be mindful of the beings who use that salad, that confusion communication. You know, communication isn't supposed to be as difficult as it is. Before we was taught this language, the first language known to man is sign language. The first language known to man is sign language. It makes it 50 times more easier to teach every culture sign language, and we can go to any part of the world opposed from learning these spells to cast on each other. Now sign language is only used for people who are what? Mute. People who cannot speak have to use sign language. Outside of the military, army, navy, and gangs, we don't use sign language in our everyday life anymore. We have to keep these tools in our bag. If we don't keep these tools in our bag and understand that for every spell that you get rid of, they're trying to put at least 2 or 3 more spells on top of you. Or you can look at it as every spell you got rid of, there were still 20 more spells behind it you had to remove, because we were programmed, and our ancestors, meaning our living ancestors, most of our parents, was not guiding us or teaching us or showing us. A lot of them was just letting us crash out and walk into whatever kind of chaos or destruction that was either placed in front of us or that we helped create. Because some of us were destructive before we understood what was actually taking place and why a lot of the things we were doing felt off balance and didn't feel right. You know, I'm never gonna be one of them people that's gonna be like, you know, anytime you're doing something, you gotta remove all feelings. No, your feelings is connected to your intellect. So if you can understand your feelings and the knowledge you obtain, this is what helps you master yourself. You have to master your feelings. It doesn't say remove your feelings. It doesn't say get rid of them. And every man should be mastering his feelings a lot more, because you have to lead your household, which a lot of us wasn't taught. You know, we were just told, hey, work a job. And it's like, why would we were being taught work jobs when we should have been taught to build our own? If we was taught to build our own, then we wouldn't have fell into the first trap, or the second trap, or the third trap, or the fourth trap. What we would have been doing was, instead of taking stupid risks, doing reckless stuff when we was younger, we'd have probably been more adamant at starting to build and grow for our family that's not here yet, for when they do get here in the future. just be mindful of a lot of these spells that are going on. The witchcraft is very, very real, you know, and on another level, some of us are casting spells on ourselves. And I try to do the best I can at this part right here, because sometimes I do get in the space of beating myself down, you know. When I have to face a lot of rejection in society, then when I have things just not going as planned or accordingly, when things just constantly crumbling, you know, when I'm losing and removing a lot of items, objects, and people, it tends to put me in that space sometimes, you know. And during those times, that's when it's kind of like baking a cake. First thing I want to do is have my communication with source. That's the first ingredient. Then my next ingredient would be is limit myself to how long I can communicate with myself or talk about myself in a certain manner that wasn't uplifting. That's the second ingredient. Third ingredient, I have to get up and do something productive. Either just productive for the day or productive for the future. Productive for the day is like a snack for me. Productive for the future would be more something like dinner time, something that is more long lasting, more longevity. That was just a whole good, a good spell casting. You know what I mean? Like, that was 3 ingredients to a recipe that I utilize, and depending on what I'm baking, depending on if those adjust or move around. We just gotta keep these things in mind. There's a lot of witches out here, you know, male witches, female witches. Male witches is gonna... The thing with the male witches is men have to learn how to naturally, and if you aren't naturally, you're gonna learn it through techniques, how to be more persuading and confident when talking. The thing is, when you learn this, it's your job to use it for the greater good, not for the demonic team. You can be Spider-Man and always be the strongest, or you can be Venom, which is Spider-Man's opposite, and Spider-Man will always be stronger than you. You always know it's going to be at least one being that will be stronger than you. But I ain't want to run it up too long. I appreciate everybody that's been tapping in. I've been dealing with real life outside of here, so until I get real life fully organized and structured, it's going to be sporadic. You know, I share the knowledge and information when the source sends it down. Sometimes it's just not the right time. You know, it's other things that's coming first in priority. And I do this because I love to do it. I'm not getting no big old bag from doing this, you know. And even if I was, I still wouldn't feel right just constantly, you know, flooding the feed with the same kind of information every single day. I have to experience some life. There has to be space and gaps in between there, you know. Everything isn't always about a dollar bill, even though we need a dollar bill. Everything isn't always about a dollar bill, even though we need a dollar bill. Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.